Have you ever dreamed of something so much that roadblocks continue to get in your way and force you to persevere? Well, the same thing happened to Joey Zamboni when he was striving to become a sports broadcaster. And after working multiple jobs in independent baseball, finally broke through to minor league baseball, went viral for his unique way of sports broadcasting using analogies and metaphors, and is now working as a full-time broadcaster for the MLS team in St. Louis. And I had the opportunity to speak with Joey about the lessons that he's learned throughout his career and what his journey taught him in this episode of Iggy Sports Talk.
Hold up. Wait until the whole team show up. Yeah, I'm in Neverland.
Welcome back into Iggy Sports Talk. I am your host, Jakey Nizuski, or Iggy for short. If this is your first time listening to Iggy Sports Talk, in each and every single episode, I try to look at the deeper aspects of sports and tell inspiring stories to help you strive for your dreams, learn how to overcome adversity, and ultimately live each and every single day to the fullest. And one person who's been able to strive for their dreams and overcome that adversity to also ultimately make their dreams a reality is Joey Zanaboni, who's currently an announcer for St. Louis City Soccer Club and was previously with the Fredericksburg Nationals. And that's where he really made a name for himself and went viral just a year ago for his unique way of broadcasting baseball games using analogies and metaphors. One of them is like, I haven't seen anything on fire like this since we decided to get rid of our living room couch. Boy, that Walgreens parking lot got a little wild that night, and many more that helped him be able to catch the attention of baseball fans and ultimately helped him make an appearance on MLB Network. But his journey wasn't smooth sailing from the start. He worked for multiple independent baseball teams just to be able to break into minor league baseball. But as Joey said, those experiences made him into the person he is today. And he spoke with me about the lessons that he learned throughout his broadcasting experience and share some valuable advice for aspiring sports broadcasters, as well as much, much more. Now, let's get into my conversation with Joey Zanaboni. So how are we doing today, Joey?
I'm doing good. Yourself?
I'm doing good. Can't complain whatsoever. Doing my best to, start off the new year on the best foot that I can. But you had quite a 2022, and I bet that you have lots of big goals for 2023. But one thing I really like to do is help people sort of reflect on the previous year and think about some of the best moments that they had during that last year. And so for you, what are some moments that pop up into your mind that, really helped you cherish 2022?
Yeah, I think that it was a great year. I think that for me, one of my long-term goals had been to work in affiliated minor league baseball. So getting an opportunity with the Fredericksburg Nationals for the 2022 season was really something that was an attainment of a goal and also a springboard for some other cool things. I was able to work with ESPN for the Big 12 Championship Baseball and part of a broadcast for MLB Network as well. But really, when I look back and kind of go over the year, the things that I'm most proud of are that we were able to raise over $150,000 with the Fred Nats for various charitable organizations in the greater Fredericksburg area, including Code of Support, which is a tremendous organization that supports families of veterans as they come back from war and from tours of duty. Really just an incredible organization. And a lot of that came from post-game auctions that were both live and online that I was a part of. And, being able to raise money through that, as well as through a personal initiative of mine, Voice for V, which is a V Foundation fundraiser. It is ongoing in support of Dick Vitale as he went through his cancer battle and continues to go through his health battle here to honor one of the great sports broadcasters by raising money for a great cause that he's very fond of and is extremely supportive of cancer research, specifically finding a way to eradicate childhood cancers, pediatric cancers. It's really a great cause. So that's ongoing. We were able to raise about $2,000 last year, and hoping to get to a $5,000 goal in the first half here of 2023.
That's amazing, man. I think, especially with whatever platform you got, being able to, help others and, promote different causes like you just mentioned is so important. And, really looking through your journey, it's pretty incredible what you've been able to do throughout your career, especially just in the last year or so. For people who don't know about your journey throughout 2015 to 2021, you were trying to get into full season minor league baseball, and you reached out to 75% of the teams to get a chance, and after 7 years of announcing an independent collegiate and short season baseball, and you finally got that opportunity with the Fredericksburg Nationals, and really started to gain steam through different viral videos, through your funny and unique analogies. And I'm curious, when did you really start using those analogies through your announcing?
Yeah, I've been doing this professionally since 2014, and really about the first half of my career. So until about 2018, I had a lot of phrases that I would use that were a little bit quirky. I didn't really think of them as being quirky. I didn't really kind of lean into them or share them quite as much. And then about 2018, I was it's just a confluence of things. I just kind of became more aware that it could kind of tap into people's archetypical view of an American sports announcer, which I think has been lost a little bit as the corporate game has taken over. I mean, so much of sports broadcasting, these big monolithic corporations. I do think there's kind of a trend toward conformity, because I think that, the booth has become just another extension of the boardroom to some extent. And so I think I felt like I was positioned to fill a hole in the market of this sort of idea that people have about this announcer, that shows like Brockmire or movies like Major League, have helped to promulgate, keep alive, and which have established a type of announcer that to many people is actually more real than the corporate, cutouts that often become the sports announcers on national broadcast. So, I just kind of identified that I've had many experiences working in professional baseball for 8 years to kind of get to that point. And yeah, I just kind of leaned into it, I think, because it's really fun for me. And I think that's one of the big pieces of sports announcing advice that I really always go back to. Doris Burke, she had said she had done it for some years. And one night she was watching a game with her son, and her son said, if you're having fun, then we're having fun.
Right.
If you're having a good time, then the audience is having a good time. And she said that really helped something to click for me. She took a different sort of approach after that. And obviously she's one of the most successful broadcasters out there. So it's something I think about a lot. And, I do believe that the way that you feel during a broadcast, it really does determine your outcome.
100%. And being able to, make it fun as well. We've seen what the Savannah Bananas have done over the last few years, really sort of amplifying the entertainment of just surrounding baseball. And, luckily baseball's popularity is starting to get back up there, but we started to see over, the last few years throughout the news and media, people saying it's boring, taking too long. And I feel like with your analogies, it brings more entertainment, more fun to the game. And I'm curious if there's any one of your metaphors or analogies that come to mind that are some of your favorites.
Oh boy. Boy, I forget a lot of them, to be honest with you. I go back and try to, I'll look at them, evaluate them, take some inspiration for the next one from them. So I do kind of try to move on from them for the most part though. Boy, though, just a couple that have come up, probably shutting them down like my cousin did with my prom proposal. Defense cleaner than a Lysol brand OnlyFans account. Sneak it through like a live cat at the TSA pre-checkpoint. That would be another one. Put a glass ceiling in a Gloria Steinem memoir. Let's get smashed. Yeah, there's a lot there. I write them all out of the same formula, and sometimes kind of really pre-plan them. I think I kind of come up with some ideas now more at this point try to kind of meld them together spontaneously. But I mean, the trick is always, can you make it seem spontaneous no matter what you're doing? I think, going back and trying to start fresh. I know that was something that George Carlin did in the stand-up comedy world. Just kind of starting fresh and trying to come up with new things. That's really the thrill of it. It's really why I do just the games, even though you always know kind of sort of how the games are going to go. Just, the newness of it is really what keeps me coming back.
Yeah, and I love it. And instead of saying, on the outside corner, that's the fifth strikeout for, Tyler Johnson. You use those phrases to make it a little bit more spicy. And the one that I saw on MLB Network, it was like the Jonas Brothers one. And it took me a second to get, but once I got it, it was hysterical. It was tough to not laugh at it.
Melton faces like a dumpster fire full of Jonas Brothers masks.
Exactly. I love that. But from people who see your journey, not only whether Jared Carabas is retweeting it or you're on MLB Network, not a lot of people really get to see the behind the scenes. And the one thing that I like that you do is on LinkedIn is you really uncover sort of your journey to get to this point. And a lot of people, myself, I'm still early in my sports broadcasting career. There's a lot of people who want to get into that sort of career. I'm somebody who grew up, emulating Don Orsillo. I remember I used to do his voice in my early on broadcasting. But for somebody who is looking to get into broadcasting, from your experiences going through rejections in multiple different jobs, what's the first piece of advice you would give those people?
Be long, go long and think long term. Don't think about even where am I going to be in a year, or where do I want to be in a year. Think more about where do I want to be in a decade. Because I've had a lot of twists and turns. I'm still a little bit less than 10 years into my professional career. So I'm still able to kind of, angle and target where I want to be 10 years into my career. But it really is just another way of saying, be prepared to deal with your own psychological variables, your own emotional variables around failure and around rejection. When I was in grade school, when I was in high school, I really wanted to go into sports announcing. Got to college, I did not sort of take the traditional path of studying journalism. I was an English major and I actually focused on poetry. And I kind of drifted away from it, of, sort of the dream of doing sports announcing. Partially, I think, because I was a little bit worried, is it creative enough? Is it something that's going to really allow me to sort of explore a lot of avenues? But, I think in a larger way, I'm comfortable saying, it's because I was afraid to fail. I was afraid to, do something and have people say, oh, this is bad, or maybe it's good, but you just kind of never get anywhere with it. You're spinning your wheels. I mean, it's a very tough business. There's many, many aspects of it that are not really fair. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's a very tough thing. And, just kind of getting a little bit of an unorthodox start. I was 22. I had just graduated from college. I just said, I have to give this a try. I have to do this. Initially kind of getting in the door some places was difficult because I wasn't, a journalism major. I didn't go to a big, college, university and study journalism, or I didn't have, a ton of experience. Before that, I had some little pieces of experience. But I just said, I'm going to learn as I go. And if I make mistakes, I'm going to, get better at them. And if I get rejected, I'm just going to go on to the next thing. And that experience of really going the long way, of working in independent baseball for 6 years, working in community college baseball for 3 years, Division II baseball for 2 years, it gave me such a look of how wide and diverse and interesting baseball fandom really is. And it also gave me just a ton of opportunities to just sit down and broadcast the game, sit down and put words to it in a lot of different sports in a lot of different ways. And it really ended up benefiting me. And it took a while, I think, to kind of get where I sort of wanted to be, which was in the baseball world, the full season minor league baseball, and having some opportunities with some networks and things like that. But I didn't want to focus on the results. I just wanted to focus on the process and just on having fun each day. That's why I did it. That's why I've gone through it. And I just think that for me, I mean, I'm unbelievably appreciative of the professional support, and when Jared Carabas and stuff retweets and things like that. I mean, it's awesome. But really, the satisfaction of the job for me has been the personal growth, where I can look back now. I'm 31. I can look back and say, "Wow, I'm a lot different than I was when I started this when I was 22." And I'm a lot different when I was 26, 27. I've seen that personal growth, and I think that I've been able to just become a better person. Really, it's one of those deals where I do think you get to a point where you realize making your dreams come true, your professional dreams come true, is really only one part. You got to pursue those. You have to stay the course, but that's not enough. You have to be a good person, and you have to continue to grow in that way.
I hope that you are enjoying my conversation with Joey Zanaboni, but I just want to take a second to talk to you about this week's sponsor, which is Versus Game, which is an opportunity for you to make money from your knowledge with questions that are 1v1, and you get paid if you are right. As a player, you can play for free, or you can play with real money by purchasing ticket bundles and going up against players that choose the opposite answer as you. I'm actually going to be coming up with a few questions over the next few weeks that you can interact with. This week's question is, would you rather be a sports broadcaster or a sideline reporter? Let me know your answer by visiting jakeiggy.onversus.com, and also visit www.versusgame.com on the mobile web. And I'll be talking about the result of this question in the next episode, as well as introducing a new question. I'm also going to be replying to comments as well. So after you vote, let me know your reasoning on why you picked the answer that you did. I'd love to hear from you. Now, let's get back into my conversation with Joey Zanaboni. That really resonates with me as well, because I'm 23 right now, going on 24 in next few weeks or so. But I even over the last 2 years of how long I've been in this business so far, it's really cool, reflecting and being able to see not only the growth professionally, but also mentally as well. And, I went through a situation right after college where I had rejections after rejections, sort of like you mentioned, trying to get into full season minor league baseball, and, having some self-doubt, some frustration, some imposter syndrome. And I'm curious from your experience, trying to get to that place of full season minor league baseball, how did you not allow the self-doubt and frustration deteriorate sort of your passion and willingness to go towards your dream?
Yeah, I mean, you battle it every day. It's just, it never goes away completely. I think that, you get to a point where you're able to kind of move on from things and go through things a little bit more easily in terms of kind of how the frustration and what have you affects you. I mean, I had one of the more unique sort of starts in minor league baseball, which is that when I was really just getting started, I was 23. I had been doing it a little bit in independent baseball and summer college ball. And I got a chance with a short season minor league baseball team called the Orem Owls, no longer in Orem. I flew out to the place on my own dime, and I got there about 10 days before the season started, and the team told me they wanted to do a promotion called Caucasian Heritage Night, and it was a terrible idea. I was an intern who had just walked in the door. I didn't have a lot of influence. I tried to stay professional and tried to stay respectful, but also voice my disagreement with putting something like this on. And I would say what followed was, it was a huge mess. My advice was not heeded. The team decided to at least launch the idea, to put it on the calendar. There was an incredible mess and firestorm that followed. I did not feel like the team really was taking any responsibility, and I ended up resigning from the team. And basically, there was as there always is, sort of a whirlwind of headlines and things like that when those type of terrible ideas and disrespectful ideas are brought to light. And, I left that team. There was, some trauma sort of emotionally and mentally for myself, because the day after I resigned my position, There was some professional and emotional trauma just from interacting with the people that were part of the organization who did not show respect for fans, for coworkers, etc. But a large piece of it was the day after I left the position, there was a newspaper article published by the Salt Lake Tribune and then picked up by Deadspin and USA Today that actually blamed me for the event. It implied, some of them explicitly, some of them implicitly, that I had come up with the idea for the event and had resigned in the firestorm. Oh. Luckily, I had evidence that the complete opposite was true, and the story was subsequently changed before any legal action had to be taken, though I considered that quite strongly. And it was corrected. It was an interesting lesson in the national media. You can go from being the absolute villain and then about 6 hours later become the absolute hero. It was kind of scarring. It was very odd and it was very uncomfortable. It was not a position I wanted to be in, but I just tried to do the right thing. At the time, I was working at a historically Black college, so I felt like I stood up for the values that, my employer and my community really stood for. And, as the years went by, I wasn't getting the bites. And I do think that part of that was because there was some association with this thing and there was some confusion and there was all this stuff. And then, there's also part of it of it's just a lot of people applying to very few jobs in minor league baseball. I understand that as well. Probably, like I said, about 2018, 2017, 2018 was when I kind of started to lean into the one-liners, both on the broadcast, but also just sharing them on social media, because I wanted to move on from this traumatic event that unfortunately I had found myself ensnared by. And from a professional standpoint, 2-3 years after it, I felt comfortable saying, I have to get people talking about something else. I'm very proud of what I did. But the truth is that if I'm going to get to where I want to go, I'm going to need people to talk about something else. And so I made the decision to share this quirkier side of my broadcasts, in part just to move on from that. And to some extent, I think, have I been maybe too successful in that? Because now I think when my name comes up, people will just think about the one-liners and that stuff. It's the curse of life. They don't remember you for the best thing you ever did. And I think that's, one of my challenges now.
That makes sense. I'm sorry you had to go through that. I can't even imagine sort of like the PTSD through all that sort of situation, especially, trusting an organization after that happened and being able to, have willingness to, continue down this path. And, one thing that, when researching for this interview, I thought it was pretty cool, the letter that you wrote to, everybody that has supported you after your opportunity with MLB Network. And what one line that really stuck out to me is you wrote, "Never give up on your dreams, never stop being you. It's no secret that I have dealt with adversity in my career. Everybody does. Plow through it. Let the passion you have be your torch, your individuality, your fire. Never stop trying." Talk a little bit about that quote a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you reading that, because to be honest, I couldn't remember that word for word. I woke up, I had been in New York, or I guess Secaucus, New Jersey for that broadcast. And I'd taken a train all day, and I kind of woke up. We were in Lynchburg, Virginia with the Fred Nats, and kind of wrote that right as I woke up. And it's a good line. I think that, it goes back to persistence, and kind of added on to the last question as well to circle back. I was thinking back on the 6 teams that I've worked at least most of one season, so half of a season or more for. And I realized, 4 of the 6 teams that I've actually worked for have folded and are basically out of business. And I think 3 of those 6 folded within 1 year of me leaving. So I either was with the team, they folded, I moved on. River City Rascals, Rockford Aviators, Texas Airhawks, Johnson City Cardinals, which the franchise still exists, but it converted to a summer league team after 2020. And it goes back to that. You can't control what happens on the business side. And, the truth is that a lot of teams, especially in independent baseball, I mean, it might be a 15-year lifespan if they're a good, solid, independent team. I mean, it is what it is, right? So there's a lot of stuff you can't control on the business side and on the side of just outside factors, how people perceive your work. And I just think that that passion and that individuality, that is what you can control. And you have to show courage. You have to show toughness. You have to just keep going. And remember that the best things really take you by surprise, where if you're patient, you'll get things that you never knew you wanted. There's a great quote from Oscar Wilde, who's one of my heroes. He said, there's only two great tragedies in life. One is not getting what you want, and the other is getting it. And it's a paradox and an epigram, which he was extremely famous for, right? But I think that what he's getting at the heart is you spend so much time saying, I want this, I want this, I want this. And if you don't get it, you're upset. And if you do get it, you find, boy, I spent all this time wanting it, desiring, I need it, and I need it in this way. You get it exactly in that way, and it doesn't satisfy you. The things that really satisfy you and bring meaning to your life are completely out of the blue. For me, that was the Fredericksburg Nationals. Just about this time last year, General Manager Nick Hall actually emailed me or messaged me, I guess, on Facebook. And I had accepted a friend request from him like 5 years before. We had never talked. I had never emailed the Fred Nest, or one of the few teams I don't think I ever reached out to. And just kind of out of the blue, he said, I've been looking at your work and I've been watching your stuff, and we'd love to, work together sometime. And that was pretty much how it worked out. So you have to be in the game, though. You have to be in the environment to get those surprises.
And I think that word patience that you brought up is so key, because that's one thing that, for myself, still earlier in my career, like I believe everything happens for a reason. I'm somebody who believes in manifestations. And so, I write down a lot of, what the goals that I have, like I've already had them. But like one thing that I always try to keep in my mind is, when I start to get anxious, if things aren't happening as fast as I want them to, that is about the journey, not the destination. And I think being able to have that patience, especially working in sports, is super duper important, because you really don't know when those opportunities are going to fall right in front of you. But, that hard work really does pay off. And, especially in those moments when you're at a low point and you feel like things aren't going your way, those are the toughest times to really get motivation. I'm curious, from your times through adversity throughout your career, what are some of the biggest lessons that you've learned during those times?
Patience. That's really the biggest lesson. I think you hit it right on the head. You have to be willing to wait. And I think one of the shortcomings, or one of the flaws of the broadcasting industry, is that there are these jobs that people expect, I have to be 23, 24, 25, 26 years old. If I don't get it by the time I'm in my mid 20s, then I'm behind. You know what I mean? It just doesn't really impact the quality of your work. And going the longer way will probably make your work, better. It just teaches you to be more patient. It teaches you to be kinder to the people around you. It teaches you to be kinder to yourself. And yeah, I do think that because there's sort of this idea of people getting things in their early and mid 20s, if you don't have a resume that a lot of employers look for, if you didn't go to Arizona State, Syracuse, and Northwestern, and you can't and I'm not saying that those people haven't earned it or anything like that. They, have done a phenomenal job, and they've done a great job to get to that point. But yeah, there is sort of a limiting valve around these jobs, and people, I think, get away a little bit from what the work actually is. Another quote from me is Friedrich Nietzsche: many are stubborn in pursuit of the path, few in pursuit of the goal. And just being able to kind of come into this business with a little bit of fresher eyes, having a background more in the humanities and literature and things, I really felt like I just want to do a good job on the work. I just want to do a good job in the game. And for me, the barometer of a good broadcaster is not the level they're at, but it's I mean, if you're doing a little league game, does it sound like a major league game? Does it sound like you have that passion, that undeniable just enthusiasm and, other areas, obviously the expertise, do you know about the players and things like that? But do you have that undeniable enthusiasm to bring that game to life? Or can you take a 10-3 ball game where it's over by the fourth inning? I mean, can you take that and make it interesting? Can you take that and make it where people are like, I got to see what happens next. I still have to stay with this because I got to see what's said next. And I just think that when you're focused so much on just where am I going to go? How am I going to get with this team? How am I going to get with this level? I just think you start to get away from some of that stuff. And patience and just a commitment to each game and a commitment to the passion is really it's a value system that's done unbelievable things for me just personally. I think it's helped me professionally, but it's really helped me to understand what's important in life from a personal perspective.
I think being able to, have that mindset is super duper key, especially, when you are job searching, because you can have and make up those limiting beliefs so easily that if I don't get to this place by 25, in your mind, you're a failure, but in the grand scheme of life, everybody takes their own path. There's no real, you have to, get married at this time. You have to, have a career and a house at this age, or then, everything's over or something like that. But I feel like society a lot of times does a great job of, helping us or curating us to make up those limiting beliefs in our minds. And, especially when you are job searching, that's one of the, toughest parts of it. But one thing that, I always like to ask people, especially who have, overcome adversity, is what advice would you give to your younger self?
A lot. I'd give a lot of advice, but one thing that I was thinking right there, it's really a process. I mean, I say these things. I say it's not like I kind of got to one point. So, okay, now I'm going to do everything this way. I mean, you're growing and you're continuing to fail and you're continuing to get better in certain areas. And one thing I was thinking about was actually just a little over a year ago, during the 2021 season, I was with the Sioux Falls Canaries in the American Association. And, I was kind of talking about just somehow we were on the bus and we were talking about different broadcasters. And I was talking about a certain broadcaster. And I said, oh, this person got a certain job. And I was trying to get the same job and I can't believe they gave it to him. Basically this is why they should have given it to me. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of went on. And then this pitcher, Grady Wood, who was like one of the all-time legends for Sioux Falls, he won basically like the Cy Young of the American Association. And he was in his last year of his career. And he just looked at me and he's talking about this other guy who got a job. And he just said, good for him. And he said it genuinely too. He said, good for him. And he kind of looked at me like, he's trying to give me a message and trying to give me, a challenge here, just person to person. And it stuck with me because I just realized you have to be happy for other people. You can't look at these jobs. And again, this is just last year. So, I've already been doing it for like 7 years. I'm like 30 years old during this season. You spend so much time, especially when you're just like in your 20s, you're 24, 25, 26 years old. You're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this person got this job. And I can't believe that person got this job. And I can't believe I got, I had to take this because this person took this. It just will drive you nuts. And you just have to be able to say, good for him, good for her, good for them that they got it. And what is meant for me will be, ultimately decided. It'll be ultimately something that I attain if I stick with it, where I need to be. And I think about, like I said, the 4 teams folding. I think about that experience in the Pioneer League with UR Owls. I think about being in Johnson City with the Cardinals in 2020, which was a great setup. It was a great team that had won the Appalachian League Championship. We got some good publicity for the broadcast. I felt like I've got a toehold here in minor league baseball. And then COVID came around and it eliminated the whole league. I think about some of the opportunities I kind of had immediately after the Cardinals where I feel like, maybe I can get this job and I have an in here and all this. And those not working out. In the end, it was something that kind of took me by surprise with the Fred Nats to get that offer. And it was just like, wow, this is exactly the situation I wanted to be in. It's a really good franchise. It's a really good team. And they're a little bit weird. They know that. They are proud of that. I'm a little bit weird. I know that. I'm proud of that. And, we'll let the freak flag fly together. And I bet you the results are going to be pretty cool, which they really were. And so I look back on those other opportunities that I missed out on. And I do think of a quote from Shakespeare. I believe it's Act 2, Antony and Cleopatra. What the gods delayed, they do not deny. We, ignorant of ourselves, beg often our own harms, which the wise powers deny us for our good. So find we profit by losing of our prayers. And I just think that really is the advice. I mean, basically just that passage. That's really the advice I give to my younger self, which is you will find profit by losing of your prayers. What you don't get will actually end up being more valuable to you down the line.
When you say that, one quote that sticks out to me that I think about a lot is Big Sean said on Jay Shetty's podcast. He said, "It's not why this happened to me; it's why this happened for me." And that's one thing that we don't understand the different situations that happen in our lives. That's one thing that I love talking to people like you because you have these different situations that pin you down and force you to overcome adversity and force you to overcome these different situations. But that's one of the biggest reasons why I believe everything happens for a reason. We're set up these different situations to help us learn and grow for the future. And especially when you look at a resume, there's those experiences that you had at that different organization, but then there's also that personal experience, that mental experience that really helped you be able to become the person that you are today. And I think ultimately that's what's most important at the end of the day. But really appreciate you taking the time today, Joey. I think a lot of people are going to take a lot from this conversation, whether you want to be a sports broadcaster or you're just somebody, regular person who's, looking to understand what this thing that we call life is and trying to, live it to the fullest. But really appreciate you taking the time. And for anybody that, wants to either support the broadcast, support your journey, support you on social media, how can they do all that?
You can find me at Joey_Zana across all platforms, TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, everywhere. So give it a follow. Hope you'll tune in to the Fred Nats this summer and to the St. Louis Ambush, stlambush.com, here through the winter and spring.
I love him, man. Appreciate you taking the time, and everybody go and check him out. Has great personality, great energy, and great analogies. Can't beat him whatsoever. The best in the biz, Joey Zanaboni. Really appreciate you taking the time.
All right. Thank you very much. I'll talk to you again soon.
I hope that you did enjoy my conversation with Joey Zanaboni and got a little bit more insight on what he's learned throughout his journey and how he was able to persevere through all the adversity that he endured throughout his broadcasting journey thus far. And you were able to take some of the advice that he gave and apply it to your own life. That's honestly my goal for each and every single episode. I want to try and help you be 1% better each and every single day. You only get every second once on this journey. And so if I'm able to help you through my voice and through this podcast to be able to live each and every single day a little bit happier and be able to gain a little bit of some perspective, different perspectives and opinions from the people that I bring onto this podcast, that's my ultimate goal at the end of the day. And if you did enjoy this episode, make sure to subscribe over on YouTube or whatever audio platform that you listen to. I post episodes bi-weekly, and I have some great episodes in the vault that I'm very excited about. So make sure to subscribe over there. And then also follow Iggy's Sports Talk over on Instagram to see clips as well as more updates regarding the podcast. But as always, I greatly appreciate everybody tuning in. I hope that you have a great rest of your day. And I'll see you and talk to you next time. Peace.